I used to do something, I've done it probably 3 times in the 10 years that we've been together, and he would like shut down. Like, I mean, it was just his emotions. He wasn't hearing me anymore.
I would cry.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna
like
say,
that's serious.
yeah, he would cry. He would cry. Hi, nurturers.
Hey, nurturers.
So today we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
My goodness.
10 years.
Wow. Amazing.
Glory to God for 10 amazing years together. 12 years as friends.
Yep.
10 years. Wow. We are so blessed, and because we've made it through these 10 years successfully, glory to God, we wanted to share with you
How?
Yeah.
How do we put up with each other? What do we do? And how will we do it for the next 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years?
Right. So. The divorce rate in America is 40% of marriages are ending in divorce, and that's a heartbreaking statistic. And we figure that if God can use us as vessels to be a blessing and share what has worked for us, honestly, not the Instagram picture perfect, happily ever after, everything is always amazing, but you know that there's challenges and obstacles, and what did you call it today? Growth opportunities?
Growth opportunities.
That we can share with you to hopefully be a blessing to help your relationship succeed, and if you're not yet in a relationship, to at least get you
prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
So we have our notes.
Yes. I typed up my notes because that's what engineers do. Or as teachers, they put them on a whiteboard. So let's get into it because we got a lot to cover, and we definitely want to make sure that we get to everything. So I'll let you kind of start with what you've got. And
okay. So the first thing that, obviously, if you have Christ at the foundation of your life, this is important. Pray first. So no matter what you're going through, good, bad, if you're going through greatness, praise Him. If you're going through something hard and challenging, praise Him for whatever He wants you to learn through it, and however He's going to allow you to grow as a union through it. Our toughest, most challenging situations have led to our greatest growth, and they brought us closer together because we've been able to cry and pray and talk through, what's working, what's not, and those things that you don't really talk about when things are all wonderful come up usually when you're having a big argument. And though they suck, it's what helps you to get through it, but only through the lens of Christ, as God guides you to help you to approach each other with love, grace, forgiveness, compassion, understanding, honesty, all the fruits of the Spirit.
And I had pray on my list as well, so I'll cross it off. But yeah, it's so important to pray for each other at the beginning of the day, throughout the day, when we're at work, when she's taking care of the kids, when I'm traveling. Just pray that each other have strength. Pray that you're able to take on whatever tasks you have for the day. It just really helps, and it helps you also to know what your spouse is going through, because what should I pray for you, for?
True.
And I think we could definitely still do a better job of that. But it just really helps set the tone. And it actually goes into the one that I have, which is prioritize your partner's needs. And so that's one good. That I think we really could do a lot better on. I think we do a good job because we always try to look out for each other. And
right.
When you're stressed out or something, I'm like, hey, you're stressed. Go take a shower, or go away.
Go take a nap.
Do something.
Go
take a nap.
Get a break.
But prioritize each other's needs. And the one note that I wrote down here is that small talk is often used as a way of checking out your partner's receptivity. So I've noticed a lot of times that when Fernell's got something on her mind, she can talk, and she'll talk and talk and talk. And if I'm like playing a chess game or something, she'll check out and just stop. And I realize that, and I'll be like, okay, I know that. But so those are like the cues, like when someone's talking and they're saying things that are on their mind, it's like, okay, put things away and focus. So I'm trying to get there, but
that was one of my notes.
So yeah, you can cross that one off.
Wow.
But it's really just don't take your spouse for granted. I try my best not to take Fernell for granted as a wife, as a friend. As the mother of my 3 children. She does so much, and this one I really fail on. This is all like one big thing. Acknowledge your spouse.
Woo!
And I am terrible at that. So terrible at that. But again, these are things that I think are good to do. And so as I'm looking at them, I'm like, okay, this is great. This is almost like a good 10-year, where can we improve and what can we do better? And acknowledging Fernell, because she's told me a million times, words of affirmation is like her love language. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll let her go on to another one.
No, he's
so
so
go
right.
ahead. Go ahead.
So,
say some more.
just piggybacking on what he's saying, and that's one of my first points. It's so
Good.
important.
Cross it off.
So where's the marker? It's so important that you learn your spouse's love languages, and I'll put a link to that book in the description below if you haven't heard about it. We highly recommend it. It discusses the main love languages, and just in the interest of time, I'll just tell you one of mine is words of affirmation, and another one, and that means like compliments and encouragement through your words, and another one is time spent, and that's probably one of Tony's major love languages
changes by the hour. I roll the dice.
You're so silly.
What's my love language gonna be?
Goodness, this guy. So find out your spouse's, because you might give your spouse, I don't know, a ring,
Gifts.
a watch,
Yeah.
gifts, a vacation. Where that's not really a good example, but like stuff, like a car.
But you
or
have
this
tried
or that.
before.
I have tried that before. I bought him gifts to. I bought him tickets to go see the Cowboys. We Damn Boys. How about like? What did he do?
we didn't go.
he was like, nah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, he's so ungrateful, and like I was so annoyed. But it's because that's not his love language. I was trying to love on him and learn, and that was in our first year of marriage, right? I was trying to love on him and express my love for him, and that's not his love language. Gifts are not his love language.
Don't spend money on me.
Yeah, seriously. At all.
And don't surprise me either. She's learned that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Even last year.
Yeah.
See, we're still
learning.
It's so,
10 years in.
But it's at the end of the day, it's like rewarding, and that goes on to another one that I had here.
Oh, hold on. So let me just say. So
okay.
if you don't, just to like, if you don't express love to your spouse in the way that they receive love, then they won't feel loved. Even though you think you're expressing it, it's not communicating as love to them. It's not effective communication, which leads you to your next point. I see communicate.
Yes. So this one was another one that I struggle with, and again, I feel like marriage is just a big growing opportunity throughout the whole thing. So the next one I had is communicate. And one of the big things that I would do is stonewall. So that's when, we got into an argument and I would just shut down. It's part of the personality trait that I have. Apparently other people do the same thing, where, sometimes, and sometimes it's just the way you grew up as well. You just learn to shut down. You avoid conflict as much as possible. And I did a little Enneagram thing, and it was like, this is what you are.
Wow.
So, but really Fernell's kind of said, that's not how this marriage is going to go. And we've had a lot of conversations just about that. Like, we'll have arguments that'll turn into discussions about not shutting down and not shutting each other out. And so don't stonewall. If you need to take some time, explain that. And I've learned to do that a lot better as well. But don't stonewall. Don't, try not to go to sleep on your anger. Sometimes you got to move away and step away. But the other thing I have here is respect trumps almost everything else that you do. So as long as you two have respect for each other. And the other one I have here is actually learn how to fight. You're going to have arguments. We have arguments. We have things, but we've also learned, and this is through counseling, which I think we have on here too. We went to counseling because, there were points in our life.
Was that like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Not long
there
ago.
were points in our life where we were like, okay, we need to actually get some help. But when you learn how to fight, and it's learning the boundaries, learning, what our counselor said was like the code word or the bottom line something of what not to say to trigger. There are things that about your spouse that if you say something, you're not really helping the argument right now. You're just trying to poke at them and get to them. So it's using quality and constructive communication. And I think we're both great communicators.
Yeah.
We're both great speakers. She's done speaking engagements when she worked at Second Base in Toronto. I've done a lot of speaking across the country for different things. And attack the problem, not each other.
Yeah.
Try to keep that. And I think we've also learned how to do that. We never really attacked each other.
Yeah, we didn't.
Much.
We've been good at that.
Yeah, we've always tried to focus on the problem. And I'm a very, task-oriented, Fernell is too, where, we see a problem, we're going to attack it. And we've also gotten to the point where we recognize right away when it is the enemy that is at the root cause of these things. And so we will call it right at the right there and say, this is the devil trying to get us to think a certain way, to do something, and we're not going to let it. And the other thing I have here is move from me to we, which I think we could definitely do a lot more of when we do have arguments, to say this is how I'm going to solve it. No, this is how we're going to solve it. And I know she's really good at it, but that's something. And then the last thing I had, which I was going to start with, was to learn from the conflicts that we have. So again, calling them growth opportunities and not, growing pains I don't like that word. Growing opportunities is another thing, because you're growing and it's an opportunity that comes out of a crisis. So learn how to grow from them. And what I wrote down here is that, conflict, there are opportunities towards greater intimacy, understanding, and connection. So if you look at it like that, then I think you'll approach it together, and you'll communicate better through arguments, through the good and the bad. So what else you got?
I like that. I actually just wanted to mention two things that I wanted to piggyback on what he was saying. So when he was talking about fighting fairly and how there's certain things you can say, I used to do something, I've done it probably 3 times in the 10 years that we've been together, where things got real ugly, and I was like, if this doesn't stop, I want a divorce. And he would like shut down. Like, I mean, it was just his emotions. He wasn't hearing me anymore.
I would cry.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna
like that's serious.
Yeah, he would cry. He would cry, and he would be like, "I don't want to. I don't want a divorce. Like, why does it have to go there? Like, why are we from here to divorce?" And I would tell him like straight up, like, I cannot have a relationship where we're arguing like this or we're screaming at each other. And that's only happened a couple times, but that's to tell you how intense it got. And I would be like, I don't want to have a divorce, but I'm not going to have a relationship like this. I'm not going to tolerate this kind of, you can't shut me out. So like how he said he used to stonewall, I didn't know that what it was called. Stonewall, it's not fighting fairly. If you shut down, now I'm begging you to communicate, no. So that's one thing that you need to do with your spouse. Let them know. Like, so he told me you cannot go there. You cannot say divorce, because it's not fighting fairly. It's like, you're not even allowing us to grow. You're just, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And I realized, I'm kind of like implementing a quit mentality and manipulating him that, hey, don't do what I want or I'm leaving you. That's not fair. You know what I mean? Let's give each other the space and the chance to grow and work together, even if it means marriage counseling or just stopping arguing and praying and coming back to the conversation. But I let him know, you can't shut down. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to have a relationship where you shut down and I'm begging you to talk. So you need to communicate with your spouse. If you are having issues like that where, you're not communicating, say, this is what I need. You can't bring up the fact that I cheated. You can't bring up the fact that I don't know, whatever you guys have, whatever issues you're having. They can't bring it up to throw it in your face to hurt you or to use the divorce card to manipulate you or to stonewall, to shut down. So whatever your spouse does or whatever you do, like the silent treatment is a game. It's a child's game. It's not okay. It's not fair for anyone to implement it. We're grown folks. We have to get to the root of the issues and work together.
Yeah, because so the other thing I had that you did touch on, the reason why I don't like the D word is because I view marriage as a long-term commitment, and I think that's how we need to treat marriage. I feel like too often, and maybe this is the way we grew up, especially in the African American community, we didn't really have a lot of examples of long-term marriages growing up. Right. I came from a broken single parent household where all my siblings are half siblings, so that I have 3 siblings. None are direct, full siblings. So that shows you where I grew up in. And then, for Nell's story, I don't know how much you shared or you want to share, but again, we both came from broken
single
homes.
Moms.
Yeah, single moms. Yeah. Where there weren't strong, healthy relationships. And so part of it, and I think we'll touch it this towards the end, but we want to break the cycle. We want to break what's been happening in the Black community. We want to be there for all 3 of our children. We want to be we want them to see that we are a strong unit together, that they cannot rip us apart, and that no external forces are going to take us apart.
Right.
That
the enemy will not prevail.
What God has put together, let no man tear asunder. Right. And for me, that's a lifelong commitment. And so the other thing I have here is make marriage about friendship. We're friends.
Yeah,
we're like I always say that we're soulmates.
Yeah.
I wrote that in my Facebook post today, and it really dawned on me that maybe we did travel back in time to start this marriage over again, because we're like, wow, that was so much fun.
Oh, boy.
And maybe we found a time machine and we're like, let's do it again. Let's do it again.
This is an engineer, so you'll hear him talk nonsense like that.
But anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, everything you're saying, I agree. I just was checking out. So just going with what he was saying, don't assume and don't when I say don't assume, let me just
explain.
There's a lot of times where I would think he should know, like I can give you so many examples. But
so like I'm supposed to read your mind.
Yeah, but like times where I'm like, he's this intelligent person, you should know, right? So I'll give you one example, something that pissed me off for a long time. So when when we first had our daughter, Faith.
This video's over.
She was 1 week old, and he went to go wash the bottles because I was pumping and nursing, and it was just a hard time. And I remember he came back and there were soap suds on the bottle, and I was mad. Like, I was pissed because I'm like, how many times did you rinse this bottle? And he was like, once. And I'm like, do you rinse a bottle? You rinse our stuff one time? Like, would you rinse a glass for yourself once?
And yes.
And he said yes. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, that's dumb. Like, there's soap suds on it. Rinse something at least like, 3, 4, 5 times because it's
healthy.
because it's a baby and you don't want a baby drinking soap
Right.
suds. So to me, I thought that was like common sense. And in my mind, immediately I was like, this guy's an idiot. And I was annoyed. I mean, I really, really mad because I'm like, what else can't I trust him on? If it's something so small as washing a bottle, then what else will he fail at in life? You know what I mean? Like, literally, my mind goes from 0 to like, just... I'm sorry. But that's the truth, right? And what I could have done, instead of being like, okay, blah, whatever, I could have just, and not assumed that like he's an idiot, right? Because he's not. But I could have asked him, why did you rinse it one time? Right? That would be like a grace kind of conversation where I'd be like, well, hey babes, why'd you rinse it one time? Instead of being like, are you kidding me? You rinsed it once? Seriously? Why can't you?
I feel like you're reliving this right now. It's kind of worrying.
But that's what I'm just trying to I'm not reliving it, don't worry. I'm just trying to let people know it can be like the smallest thing that snowballs into like more, right? So like a grace type of conversation, instead of coming at your spouse with attitude, like, are you kidding? Like, to like belittle them. And that was one of my points. Don't belittle each other or talk down on each other or call each other names or scream at each other or curse each other out. None of that stuff. Ask them, like, well, why did you rinse it once? Because there's soap on it still. So why did you rinse it once? And not in a like, oh, like condescending manner, but like, hey, how come you rinsed it once? And then he would have probably said, oh shoot.
Nope, I would have explained it. But anyway, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, so at that point, he would have had the opportunity to be like, maybe I should have rinsed it more. Instead of now he's defensive, like, well, I only rinsed bottles once. Then he could have been like, oh yeah, maybe I should have done it twice. It would have given him the space to either like in his mind self-correct and be like, yeah, maybe I should have rinsed it more, or to be like, I didn't even realize. Mm-hmm. Instead of me attacking and now he has to defend himself. Like, if you're working together, remember the enemy will try to split you up and cause you to fight. Give your partner grace and like try and believe the best. Believe that they're not foolish and that they do love you, and that the mistakes that we all make are accidents. Mm-hmm. And that we're helping each other to grow. Helpmates.
Right,
Helpmates,
exactly.
right? We're helping each other. So try to attack all situations, even when it feels like it's against you and it's personal. Try to attack the enemy in it and to like help each other, and do so, lace your words in love. So like speak to each other with love and grace so that you can grow together instead of being pulled apart by whatever situation you're facing.
Mm-hmm. Part of what you were saying made me think of my next point here, where I wrote down like they're a support system for each other. So again, if I do something that doesn't meet what she wants, well, how can I better support you? So it's like Fernell was saying, ask, okay, what maybe didn't you get that I'm getting? Why would you just wash the bottle once? Well, here's the reason why I rinse the bottles more than once. So explain your thought process, because and I think there is a difference between men and women, and we do things a certain way and we have a certain mindset, and women do things a certain way and they have a certain mindset. And then when women become mothers, the switch just like flips like that.
Yeah,
so they go from like wife mode to I'm protective of this child over everything mode.
Mama bear.
And I read somewhere that for men it happens, but it happens a lot more gradually where we grow into it. Whereas the woman, like the breast milk starts coming, like everything just right then and there.
Right.
And so there's a lot of different things that happen there. So when children come along, you also got to give grace to your wife. And that was one thing that I had to work on, because I saw her as a completely different person.
Yep.
And I was like, who is this woman?
Yeah, really. No, really.
And and that kind of there was another thing that I written down. It was basically saying, just make sure that you're checking in and that you actually know the person that you're married to, every year of the marriage, because people change. Some people don't change, but people change. Circumstances change. People come in and out of our lives, and circumstances, like just everything. But you really got to make sure that you understand who you are. Otherwise, when the kids are going off to college and we're sitting here looking at each other, I don't want to be like, wait, who
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want that to happen.
Exactly, complete stranger. And just with what he was saying, so he said kids change everything in a sense, and they do. Discuss discipline, education, religion, diet, literally discuss everything. Don't assume that because you believe finances, don't assume that because you believe your kid's gonna, grow up here or eat this, or well, my kids are gonna be a vegetarian because I'm a vegetarian. Well, is that how your spouse feels? Maybe he doesn't want them to be a vegetarian. And these are just examples. Or because you feel like, you grew up spanking your kids, or you grew up getting spanked, so you're gonna spank. That may not be the case for your spouse. Don't hold back with that stuff and assume that just because you want it a certain way, or okay, you're gonna spank and the other one won't spank. No, you guys need to be on the same page and in agreement, and to pray and talk it out until you decide exactly how you're gonna raise them, even who's gonna be the disciplinarian, because we've argued about all of that. I mean, literally small things, big things, all of that, until we talked it out, prayed it out, until we're on one accord, and finally we're like now a well-oiled machine. But for years, for 5 years now, gone through the learning, the just arguing and discussions and disagreements.
And some of those things are like year zero conversations that you have. So like before we got married, Fernell was wise enough and I was willing enough to do like a little bit of pre-marriage self-counseling. So we had like some worksheets where we answered a lot of those questions about finances, about kids, about our future. And another thing that I kind of wrote down in here is plan forward and look back only at the good times. So as you do move forward,
I like that.
Make sure that you're continually planning. One thing that, I tried to do, and I don't know how successful you've been at keeping it, but like have a 5-year plan for yourself. Ask your spouse, what's the next 5 years look like for us? Like, what do we want to have accomplished? What do we want to do? Because again, treat it almost like a business. Like, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to progress? How are we going to keep the ship afloat? How are we going to, see our kids off to do great things? You want to make sure that you're on one accord. And so you got to plan these things. You got to ask those questions. And I had on here financial views because it seems like finances is like the main thing that people just lose their marriages over. And
those are the 3 main reasons for divorce: are sex, finances, and infidelity. So literally, finances are huge. You have to discuss it. And that means even before if you're dating and you're watching this and you're dating someone, if you have any debt or they have any debt, you need to ask them, do you have any debt? What type of debt? If you have debt, you need to be open and honest and upfront so you guys can work together and they don't feel like they were lied to or deceived. And because when you marry, you assume each other's assets and liabilities. All your everything. So credit score, literally all of it. And you guys can work. Sometimes people are too afraid to talk, but this is your life. Boldly just let it out on the table. If they're meant to be with you, they'll get it, and you guys can work together to fix it. Thankfully, we've been able to grow together and share everything, and we're gonna raise our kids in the same way where it's open, honest transparency so they can learn, right? So Hugh talked about looking back, and that struck a chord with me where I made a note about that. Never ever bring up something bad that someone has done in a way to slander or trash them or bring them down. One rule that we've had in our marriage that has worked really well, I don't bring up the past. Doesn't matter what he's done, I will not bring it up unless it's like some sort of constructive criticism conversation where we know that we're about to talk about it, not in a way to hurt him or make him feel bad. When you say you forgive, that means that you're not bringing it up over and over and over. Well, I did this for you, and well, you did this, and well, you're really this, and blah, 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 blah. No, if you forgive, you have to let it go, or else they'll never be able to move past it, and you'll never be able to move past it, and your relationship will never grow. It's kind of like driving a car and looking in the rear view mirror at what's behind you. You're gonna crash. You're gonna crash. When you say you forgive, let it go. Doesn't mean that you're gonna forget, but you have to learn how to let it go, and that means everything. So if you've decided to move forward in your relationship in spite of infidelity or lies or whatever it is, you need to let it go and truly let it go, and then work to build trust together as a unit, right?
I would add part of that building trust, and I wrote this down. So there's this Dr. John Gottman. I guess he's like this big relationship expert. I can't remember the name of the book that he wrote, but we'll probably put that in the comments or something. But he's like huge in the relationships, and he noted that healthy couples have 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. And so I think that over our 10 years, I mean, I would almost say that ratio is like 20 positive interactions to 1 negative interaction.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know what the number is, but you want to make sure if it's less than 5 to 1, then he says that your chances of divorce are a lot higher.
Wow.
So if there is a negative interaction, then you got to work hard to say, all right, let's find something positive to do. And so the next thing is like stay intimately in touch with each other. So whether that is sex, whether that is just sitting down on the couch and watching The Office, find things that you guys can laugh about, find things that, you know, you can do together. When you have kids, it becomes a lot harder. With coronavirus right now, it's a lot harder to go anywhere and do anything.
Right.
So just try to find ways that, you know, you can like, you know, just touch them and just, you know, like
I keep it coming.
Like all that, you know, like I don't want this to get like this YouTube video but you got to find things that you do, you know, that are enjoyable.
It can be as small as when you walk by them, do you like rub their back? Like literally, it takes 2 seconds. Do you rub their back? Like, do you play in their hair? Do you like just plant a little kiss on them? Do you slap their butt? Like anything. It can be the smallest things. Like they're sitting beside you or they're passing you something, and then you like rub their hand as they're passing, like, pass me this paper. So you're like, oh, thank you, baby. Like something so small, like it's just the smallest little like touch. It's so big, and it creates like, what are those endorphins that will surge through your body and help you to feel better and help your spouse to feel better. So it's like, it's little things that you can do. It doesn't have to be like a big production every time. I also wanted to add, because something you said when you were talking about finances, I want to just add a quick point about that. Share your bank accounts. I know some people feel differently about this, but if you have a secret account, not a secret, but your own personal, and your spouse has their own personal, how are you working together to pay bills and build up your future if you're living separate accounts? Right? So you should, if you come from like many years of having your accounts and you're like, you know what, this is how I feel more comfortable, cool. But what I would say is make sure that they're joint so that you each have access to each other's account if you plan to, you know, grow your life together. I think that that's wise. Another thing, share passwords, and that means internet. So your logins, not to say that you're going to be spying on your spouse. We know each other's passwords so that we could always get into each other's accounts if we ever needed to. And I think it's healthy just for transparency. Not to say it's like I'm checking up on him or he's checking up on me, but we know the information so that if we ever wanted it or needed it, or God forbid something bad happened to him and I needed to access his account, his bank account or whatever, I'm not going through, you know, hoops and a bunch of like, what's that word, red tape,
right,
to get information that I need for our family, right? Also, just piggybacking on that real quick is like, if your spouse were to drop dead today, could you take over where they left off? Could you pay the bills if you're not, you know, if your husband's doing it all, your wife is doing it all, and they drop dead, can you handle the house's responsibility? Like, that's something that I could definitely do better at, but can you handle everything? Or are you kind of like sitting back and letting them do it all? I think it's important in wisdom to make sure, like the bugs are coming out, I think it's important in wisdom to make sure that you can take over where they left off. So you can cook, you can do laundry. You're not like, okay, you do that, I'll do this. Like, make sure that you guys are sharing responsibilities, and if there's something that your spouse can do to make your life easier, communicate that. So
and that
Tony
goes
and
back
I
to prioritizing each other's needs.
We talked years ago, and I was like, you know, one thing I need you to do every day before you leave the house is to empty the dishwasher. And he started emptying the dishwasher every single day, you know, and like just little things that like talk to each other, communicate what do you need, and then live up to that so you're supporting one another.
Try to find, you know, ways that you can still enjoy your spouse. I think that's something that we've tried to get better at. Especially just having 3 of them and having them like back to back to back, it's really hard. But I think if you're able to do that, and not to say that, you know, you just completely neglect your kids, but just try to find, you know, ways that you can still enjoy your spouse. Like even right now, like we're doing this YouTube video, the kids are asleep. Like, so I think we definitely need to be more intentional about it, because I think a lot of times at the end of the day, we're like tired. And so it's like, okay, we're sitting on the couch, we're just trying to like get some peace in. We need our me time as well, right. And that's equally as important. You also got to take care of yourself and do self-care, whatever that is. So the one thing is, you know, find a hobby that you can both do, whatever it might be, and I think we got to do a better job of finding whatever that hobby is, because it was traveling, but we ain't doing that right now. So yeah, that's kind of where our end mind's at. I mean, there's so many things that I think we've done and that we're still working on, but to me, at the end of the day, here's a big one: share a common dream. And I think our common dream was to break the cycle, and we want to really be that example. You know, we love each other, but we also know that we need to set an example for our children and for other people. And so hopefully, we're able to continue to do that, God willing. And yeah, just whatever dreams they are, share and communicate them, and make them a reality. So I'll let you finish with whatever you got.
Well, the last thing was just, if you need help, don't be afraid to get it. We got marriage counseling. There's a lot of taboo in the Black community about that. If you need it, get it. It can make a big difference.
Yes, that's your mental wellness, and we don't focus on that nearly as much as people in other races. Your mental wellness is where it all starts. If you're not here in your mind that your marriage is good and that we are in it to win it, then everything else is going to fall apart.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, like, all of the things that we listed are things that can help. But exactly what Tony said, in it to win it, you have to have a no-quit mentality. Our marriage is going to work in the name of Jesus, and we're going to do whatever we have to make it work, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, it doesn't matter, right?
That was that was the Avengers thing, wasn't it? When they were going back in time, and like, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
You would bring a movie reference into this. Absolutely. You need to have the no quit mentality, that you are going to do whatever it takes. So if they fall, you're going to help them get back up again. If they mess up, you're going to
and put a plan in place.
Yeah, like, this is what you need to do. We need to go help. You're acting, you have a porn addiction, we're going to go to church, we're going to ask the pastor to pray over us. You're cheating on me, we're going to go to marriage counseling. Give me all your passwords. You're going to cut off those friends, those relationships that you have, so you're not cheating anymore. You're acting crazy with the kids, or you're not taking care of them, or you're not taking care of whatever. Like, do what you need to do, put a plan in motion, and then, like, you both have to be in it. It can't be you trying, your spouse is like,
all right.
You both need to commit and work at it, because marriage takes work. And all the things that we described to you and all the examples we gave you, those are examples of the work it takes. It's not easy, and it takes work every day. Love is not just a fancy feeling. It's a choice. So you choose to love each other, you choose to show up, and you choose to do the work every single day.
Every single day. So, did we miss anything? If we did, put it in the comments. Let us know how you succeed in your marriage, or how you want to succeed in your marriage.
Right.
We'd love to hear it. We're always open for advice. I think that's one thing, is that I've learned to be more open and receptive to advice from others, and going to counseling and things like that, and just learning and growing to learn more, and just to invite those experiences where you can continue to grow and love as a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, whatever relationship God calls you into. God still wants you to grow into that. It's not the end. So
Amen.
I'll stop there.
I enjoyed this talk, and I hope that you did too. If you did, please give us a big thumbs up, and if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe
and share this video.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Get it out there.
So many people don't talk about it in our community. They'll post a picture perfect Instagram like this with their couples, like, hi.
Right, but they never post a one. No, I'm not.
Actually, you're right. No one ever does that.
Right.
They don't show like the crap.
Next time we have an argument, we're gonna post a picture of our faces.
No, you wouldn't. I would film it. I would. But yeah, so like, real talk, I think it's important, and I think that I can go ahead and say this will be the first of a series that we're doing.
You just gonna sign me up like that?
We just gonna keep coming back. And yeah, what do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? You want to do it like?
I don't know. I have to think about it.
I'll take that as a yes. Because another thing in marriage, do what your spouse wants, and then you'll be happy. Isn't that true?
And that's the end. All right, thanks everybody.
All right, love you guys. Have a good day.
Peace out.
So you're gonna do it, right?
I'm gonna go play video games.
This guy. Make sure you subscribe and check out our other videos. We'll see you guys later. Bye. If you'd like to learn more mom tips, see our easy meal ideas for picky eaters, learn ways to organize toys, clothes, and see our homeschool routines, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our videos.
Nurture and cry. Train up a child in the way they should go. Nurture